All right, we are live. Hello, welcome to my new series where we try to think critically through things. I show you how to think logically, scientifically, almost like a philosopher. And in today's lesson, I thought that induction and deduction would be the greatest place to start, seeing as how it's our first lesson. And you'll come to see just how important it is in the scientific process. I so just simple observation here. You can see how I put two images on the front page here. That was intentional. One of them being some muddy footprints, the other being Sherlock Holmes. Both of these things have to do with observation. Footprints. When you think of those, it's a very simple observation to make. It's like the typical observation that everyone makes in like the detective always finds the footprints. I thought that was pretty classic. And then Sherlock Holmes here, he's known for his deductive reasoning and his, very quick picking up on obscure details that others may not see. The point being is observation is very important in this type of reasoning. So without further ado, let's move on. I'm going to explain the learning objectives. The learning objectives of this session will be able to distinguish between induction and deduction. So I want you to essentially tell me the difference between the two. I want you to identify it in an example, and then I want you to apply it to develop links. Uh, these are things you're going to be able to do once I'm finished giving this session. So let's move on, and I'm going to explain kind of why deduction and induction are so important. So, as I kind of mentioned before, they're basically the critical building blocks for communicating your ideas logically. And basically, what that means is if you think of any kind of higher order thinking, such as analysis, creation, or evaluation, you're going to come to find that they're all built on observation. You can't analyze things without making very good observations and coming to some sort of understanding or conclusion of them. Using induction and deduction, you can do just that very efficiently. So, being equipped with these skills, you'll be better off. You'll be better off developing your scientific thinking. So, moving on, let's look at what induction is. What is induction? So, the definition of induction is the linking of observations in order to make general conclusions. Now, if you notice, I highlighted a few words here. First being observations, and the second being general, third being conclusions. Now, I did this because observations, like I said, I can't stress this enough, they're super important. Observations are the key to all of this, but you have to really understand what an observation is, what makes it good. Now, an observation, in short, is probably, it's basically just something that you perceive with the five senses, whether that's a smell, a sight, a hearing, a taste, or a feeling, anything like that. That's a very good observation. And general here. Now, I said general because at the end of an induction, you don't want anything specific. You want something that applies to many cases, not something that has specific terms in it. So beware of that. Now, conclusions, I also said because you want a conclusion, and as you'll see, with deductions are basically making predictions, and there's a huge difference between a conclusion, and a prediction. So, just keep in mind that it is a conclusion. So the outcome of an induction or the product will be a claim or a fact. So it's going to be like a statement. It's not going to be like a prediction. Like I said, it's going to be like a claim, something that may or may not be true. Um, And an example I have here is the building I'm sitting on has concrete blocks for walls. It is far, um, it's far warmer than buildings that do not have concrete walls. And then the conclusion would be the concrete wall provides insulation. You can see that these first two sentences are observations. There's something. Okay. So it looks like we got a little cut off there. But let's just continue. I was talking about the example. Basically, with the example, the first two sentences that you see are your observations. Both of those things you can perceive with a sense. Sitting in the building, you know, that's obviously something physical that you can perceive, and it is far warmer. That is feeling right there. I am feeling the warmth, and the concrete uh, block walls provide insulation. Concrete block walls provide insulation. That is a general assumption that you can make for any other kind of building, um, although technically it should be just any kind of wall provides insulation. But I, I suppose that in this case, the specific detail or observation would be the hall that I am sitting in, or the building I am sitting in. Anyway, now that you kind of understand induction, let's move on to deduction. The definition for deduction would be uses general principles and laws in order to make specific forecasts. Now, just like um, for the other term, I highlighted a few things here in the definition. One being principles, laws, and forecasts. Principles and laws, they're basically just almost like it says general principles and laws, just things that stand true for a lot of different cases. In other words, and forecast I did because forecast can be a little confusing. Forecast just basically means prediction. Like when you're thinking of the weather, right? The weather forecast, that's the prediction of the weather for the week, and you can use um, you can use this in order to basically make you can use deduction in order to make educated guesses. So another fact about them is they normally will have will in them, normally, because will indicates a prediction in the future, and that's what deduction is. It's predicting the future. So my example here is generally beaches with larger and more frequent waves tend to have less rocks. In Hawaii, where the waves are quite large, they must. Sorry, this is blocking it, but uh, there will be much softer sand. Um, so you can see how I started with a general principle, right? Beaches with larger and more frequent waves tend to have less rocks. I'm not talking about any beach in particular or anything like that, or any kind of rock in particular or anything specific. I'm just stating a principle of law essentially. And then the next sentence I say Hawaii. I pull an example, a specific example, to make an educated guess. So you can kind of see how deduction works, in the way of making like educated guesses and kind of looking a little beyond your findings or observations, basically. Uh, okay, I'm sorry about that once again. So it seems we were cut off, but essentially I was saying that deduction is it's really good at making educated guesses and looking a little beyond your findings and observations. Um, so with that, that marks the end of our first lesson. If you have any questions, any constructive criticism, please put that all down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear it because I'm new at this and I strive on your feedback. Um, if my content isn't pleasing you guys, then something's not working and I need to change it. So please, please, um, you know, if there's anything you thought I could have done better or anything that I did well, please let me know so I can improve and grow. All right, signing off. Jacob does.